G'day, I'm Patrick from Douglas Fir Design. Welcome to the Router Bits. As a machine, the router is incredibly versatile and really handy around the workshop. Some jobs it does are really simple and allows you to do something over and over, and then can also be used to create some really complicated profiles and some really interesting joints. When you're just starting out, you might not know which router bits you need or what you're going to use most often. When I was starting out, I found it pretty handy to buy myself a small set of router bits, and that allowed me to play around with the different varieties. If you do know what you're doing and you know what bits you need, it's really important to get good quality ones. The cheaper ones I've found over the years wear out really quickly, they don't hold their edge, you can even lose the teeth off the body and they might slip in the machine. There are plenty of really cheap router bits out there, but if you've got a little hunk of metal spinning at 30,000 revolutions a minute and one of the bits breaks off, that could fly at you or into the work or into the machine. It could cause a lot of damage. Most of the router bits that you find these days will have a tungsten carbide teeth. There are still some around though that are just carbon steel, and you'd probably want to steer clear of that. I've been using these Torquato routing bits for a number of years, picked them up at Timbecon. They've always worked really well for me. Torquato router bits are really well made. They use a really good steel in the body, and the tungsten carbide teeth are great. Stay sharp for a long time, and I've never had one come off the body of the router bit. Router bits come in two sizes in the shanks, 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch. The 1/4 inch bits are used mainly in these handheld routers, and they're great for small jobs where you don't have to remove a lot of material. If you're using a big table router like this one, or you're doing a job where you have to remove quite a lot of stock, you'll generally be using something with a 1/2 inch shank. You just need that amount of metal in there to withstand the kind of forces that are going to occur if you're using one of these really large bits that has to remove a lot of timber. There's almost no application where you're going to be truly freehand with a router, either on a table or with a handheld. Almost all the time, you'll either be using a guide that sits on the edge of the machine itself, or you'll be using a bearing on the router bit itself to follow a guide, a straight edge, or another piece that you're trying to follow. Like a lot of woodworking activities, routing is dangerous. It can be especially dangerous because each blade puts different forces on the pieces of wood that you're using, and so each job that you're doing can be totally different from the last. But there's a few things that you can do that'll keep you safe all the time. The most important and obvious, and this goes with all power tools, are glasses and earmuffs, and I usually use dust protection as well. They should be on all the time. Secondly, if you're using a router table, it's really important to keep your fingers as far away from the blades as possible. You'll see me in the next couple of videos using push sticks and paddles like this, and other pieces of wood often, to keep my hands as far away from those spinning blades as possible. If I'm using a router table, I'm almost always going to be using a fence. I've just made this fence myself. There are plenty of fantastic ones that you can buy. This needs to be clamped down, and that allows you to hold your piece of work in one position as you move it past the blade. There's also plenty of fantastic devices like these feather boards that allows you to keep the timber from lifting or moving away from the blade. Anytime the timber goes somewhere you don't want it to go, it can be thrown really rapidly by the spinning blade, and so it's important that it stays exactly where you want it to. In this video series, we'll be showing you how to use some of these router bits. Some of them will do quite complicated demonstrations, and some will only really talk about in theory. With each project that I'm showing you, it's usually just one small example of how you can use these bits, and really your imagination is what's going to be limiting you in terms of what you can achieve using each one of these different types of router bits. Torquato router bits are available exclusively from Timbecon, either online at timbecon.com.au or in either of the stores in Perth and Melbourne. Alright, so hope you enjoy the videos and hope you learn something, and welcome to the router bits.